The COB is brought to you by Pepperstone, trusted by traders in over 160 countries. From Barangaroo Studios, here's what you need to know about the day in business and finance.
Well, hello. Welcome to the COB on this Thursday afternoon, the 30th of May. I'm Nadine Blaney.
I'm Juliette Sully. Hard to believe we've got one more day until winter, although James Foot from Morningstar telling me earlier, it's a lovely day outside. I don't know, I haven't been outside.
I did go outside briefly. It is gorgeous. Yeah.
Not a gorgeous day on the market though. Let's have a look at where the CBO 200 is sitting as we close out the day's trade. I think we're down about 0.5% on the ASX 200, 0.6% loss, 47,618.
Yeah, it is one of those sessions. I mean, the scene was really set overseas and it was negative throughout. Not only that, but we continue to sort of grapple with expectations for when an interest rate, cut, will come. Although, some are saying that it wouldn't be completely out of the question to see another interest rate hike. But what we are doing is just sort of biding our time before we get a lot of data that comes through in the U.S. tonight. So we do get, we get the jobless claims, we get the core PCE, and we want to see what yields are doing because, of course, they've really ratcheted up through the overnight period, which is part of the reason why it was, just so negative, not just here, but around the region as well.
Yep, all right. Well, I don't think we're going to get the CBO 200. Let's have a look at what our three themes are. And of course, we've been talking about that losing streak, but also BHP walking away. I mean, under these UK takeover rules, it has to wait 6 months unless somebody else bids for Anglo American. I mean, it was very much a suitor that kept trying to pour at Anglo, didn't it? But it wasn't going to revise its bid after that 29th of May deadline.
Yeah, so it was a stock of the day. We'll get there in a bit. But, some are saying, well, shareholders should be happy that it wasn't willing to go back with, improved offer or overpay or wildly overpay for the assets, and not ruling out the fact that it could come back later. Maybe by then could get the copper coal assets on its own. Who knows? The story, I think, still has a ways to go, but we'll get to that in just a moment. And then we've got beefed up stocks.
Yeah, China doing away with its beef with exports. They're banning, lifting that ban. It's been a long day. Lifting that ban on beef exports. So you've seen some good moves coming through from a lot of the agricultural stocks, although I did note that Elders ended the day a little bit weaker. Let's have a look at the sectors though, kicking it off with the miners. I mean, we touched on BHP, but also you had some weakness coming through from the likes of Fortescue today. The movement in base metals not helping either. Fortescue down nearly 4% today.
And that's why, the market is pretty much endorsing BHP walking away from this Anglo American bid. It's sort of in line with the broader market. Energy as well, we're watching the likes of Santos, Woodside, both down significantly. Santos off by more than 2%, and you can see there in the uranium space as well, Boss Energy off by 2.5%.
And having a quick look at those ag stocks, Ridley up 2%, Australian agriculture up 3.5%. And as I mentioned, Elders was doing really well earlier today, but a little bit of a sell down later in the day's trade.
Okay, so not just BHP, but we also spoke with many interesting people in the smaller end of the market today, one of which was Catapult Sports. So it reported its net loss has narrowed. That's what the market wants to see, to 19.1 million, roundabout there. Sales were up. And what was sort of interesting going on there? They're using AI.
They're using AI, sports wearables. They're dealing with loads of people. I mean, Olympians, college. He called it collegiate, but college listed. What are they called? Sports players.
Collegiate
your people.
Sports,
collegiate sports.
Yeah.
So, he said there's government funding. There's also a lot of funding from these colleges. It's just a very interesting growing business. You find it on ausbiz.com.au.
Yeah, and there you go. We've got China lifting its ban on Australian beef exports in effect since 2022. And NRW Holdings was a good performer, one of the best actually in percentage terms, after analysts at Jarden lifted it to a buy rating.
All right, let's get to the COB. One of our good friends, David Scutt from StoneX, joins us now. Scotty, your thoughts on today's market action?
Look, it could have been worse. It's pretty ugly, but I think the seeds for what's happened today were sown earlier in the week. We saw that big risk rally on the back of very wafer-thin volumes over that UK and US holiday, and then a big reversal's taken place. And there is clearly some concerns out there. The bond auctions in the United States have been a major catalyst, but just the price signals we've got, the technical signals this week as well, have been really, really bearish and more triggering as we speak.
Yeah, okay. So when we think about what sort of asset classes we're watching, hard to look past the US dollar. What is the action telling us?
Yeah, look, the US dollar, we talk about the bond options and the really terrible results we saw there, tailing and really weak bid to cover for the 2, 5 and 7 year options. But really, when you look at the DXY index from a technical perspective, a lot of what can be explained is based off technicals. So I sent a chart through earlier. You can just see there, got a dragonfly doji, the first one of that, those red circles there, and a really big, strong bounce. That created the trend line. And then we've had another really bullish hammer here. So all this concern about the US dollar, no starting to roll over and everything else, well, the price action has been definitive, and excluding all the other things we've been talking about, just price action alone explains a lot. I can see why the dollar is really, really strong at this point in time. It's now cleared that 200-day and 50-day moving average as well at the moment. So at this point, it looks like it's going to continue moving higher.
Scuddy, we understand you've been prolific, oh what a shock, on X this afternoon. We've got one of your, do we still call them tweets, posts? So hopefully we can bring that up, because I have to admit I haven't seen it yet, so I'm waiting for it to come up on screen to tell me what it's about. There we go, not the most impressive rebound. Tell us what you're talking about here.
Yeah, so this was something I put out earlier in the week, and it comes back to why we're talking about the market's being down so aggressively today. So what ES futures and S&P 500 futures, and it was right at the start, it was on Monday, and I was just saying that looking at a weekly chart, it really doesn't look compelling to go long. It was struggling to go and break through those record high levels, albeit sitting very close to it. Volumes are dropping away, and there was divergence between RSI and price. So that was telling me that there wasn't really a lot of impetus, a lot of momentum behind the move. And I'm not surprised to go and see the pullback we've seen over the last couple of days, and it looks like it will extend at least into European trade at this point in time.
Yeah, but Scotty, are we surprised? Are we surprised? We've got a lot of enthusiasm built into some stocks in the United States. We've got what appears to be sticky inflation around the globe. We've got unemployment rising. It shouldn't be a great surprise, should it, that we're starting to sort of bump up against some resistance?
No, not at all. And even just from a fundamental perspective, I'll go and push aside the technicals for a second. You're right, things are priced for perfection out there at the moment. Equities are pricing in double-digit earnings growth in the United States on top of what's really, really strong growth expected this year in an environment where rate cuts are being rapidly dwindled away. We can see the US government is having troubles trying to go and finance its deficit at this point in time. So to go and say that it was all looking pretty peachy out there is totally incorrect. So we need to have a pullback. If you want to go and have a sustainable bull market over the long term, you need to have healthy pullbacks. And we hadn't really seen anything like that for quite a while. So if this does extend for a longer period of time, it should be welcomed by those who want to be investors for the longer term.
Scuddy, what in your view has changed this week for the RBA, given what we saw with the sticky inflation and then the retail trade figures?
Look, it's pretty much a continuation of the trend. We knew that on a per capita basis, demand was very, very soft from households. We know that retail spending on an aggregate level is very, very weak at this point in time. And the inflation side of the story, whilst it's, you've got to be cautious using that front month of the quarter, given that it's so heavily weighted to goods. The thing that really struck out to me was that, hey, goods are supposed to be that disinflationary, deflationary force, which is helping to go and drag inflation lower. But it's not. And I put a chart out straight after that release yesterday. And if you look, going back to the latter parts of 2023, on an annualized basis, we're not seeing any more disinflation. It's trending flat to higher and at levels that are nearly double the RBA's target. To say that we need to go and cut rates aggressively in an environment where inflation is still at that kind of level, it's not really a wise idea.
Yeah. All right. So into tonight, we're watching some of the data coming out of the US. We're watching some data in Europe. What do you think is going to be most important for markets?
Being honest, look, it's going to be a lot of pre-adjustment before that PCE deflator that arrives tomorrow. We also have the European inflation result that comes out on Friday as well, and one from Japan as well tomorrow, just to go and top the list. So I expect to go and see, we might see a further pullback, but really to me, I expect to go and see a bit of a retracement of some of this selling. People have got to go and get positioned for this particular release. We know to go and expect probably a monthly increase around about 0.25 or so for that core PCE deflator. So jobless claims is the only one that really stands out to me as being having the potential to go and see a knee-jerk market reaction. And that's because we've been paying quite a bit of attention to it recently. So we see a really big outlier, something well away from that 215,000-ish kind of level it's been sitting at recently. That's the only thing that's really likely to go and move things around.
All right. Well, we know you're going to be staying up anyway and watching the GDP print tonight. Scotty, always a pleasure. David Scott, Stone X. And then, of course, looking at the stock of the day. You did the call today.
It was a big surprise. I haven't mentioned it already if you're a regular listener. But yeah, BHP was the stock of the day. Francesco Distratus from Ord Minnett and Howard Coldman from Team Invest. Let's take a listen.
It's business as usual for BHP. I like BHP. I think it's trading on a reasonably attractive PE. Howard mentioned earlier, there's a lot of stocks on high PEs. I think BHP's relatively attractive for the long term. There is copper within BHP, so it's not as if they're going to miss out on that. It's just somewhat diluted by a lot of the other commodities they mine as well. So we have an accumulate on BHP, and I'd probably agree to that.
I don't own it. Team Invest members don't own it. We've never really liked it from a Team Invest perspective because you can't really be certain that earnings per share are going to be materially high in 5 years' time because they're dependent too much on commodity prices. But I think BHP shareholders should be very relieved that, as you mentioned, that they didn't keep on bidding it up. And what's more, there's no reason why they can't come back in 6 months' time with an offer just for the copper assets or the coking coal assets, the metallurgical coal in Queensland. Why do you have to buy the entire thing to get the
Howard, and he's got a good way with a turn of phrase, that it's like going into a dealership wanting the Porsche, but deciding to buy the whole dealership just so you could get the Porsche.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's a lot of money there. Let's have a look at the money on the market with the leaders today. Pro Medicus had a good day.
Yeah.
So did Domain, Reliance Worldwide, Collins Food, and Domino's. So quite a bit of a theme there with Domino's and Collins Food. Maybe we're eating more as we head into winter.
I am. All right, let's flip the page. Genesis Minerals leading the pack there, down by 7.5%, though not in a good way, I suppose you could say. Regis Resources did see its target price lifted to $3.10. That's 24% by RBC Capital Markets, but still underwater. Liontown Resources joining it there. Sandfire Resources as well. It was off by 5% despite seeing its price target lifted 10% to $11 a share by RBC Capital. So it's just a reflection of, the woes that we've seen today in some of those big areas of the market.
All right, looking at the small area of the market today, Dimerix, I also spoke to the CEO there. So they had a great day, up by around 13%, getting approval for their kidney treatment in the Middle East. So an expansion there. Catapult, we also spoke to the CEO, up 11%, shares catapulting, as I said to the CEO, I'm very funny, on its very good numbers as well.
E-Road up by 8.7%. We spoke with them a couple of weeks ago. We speak with a lot of CEOs, and oftentimes just really interesting to get it from the horse's mouth. So if you go to the website and scroll down, it's called The Corner Office, and we've got a whole collection of interviews for you to peruse in your own time. Flip side here, there always is one. And looking ahead to tonight, we do get that GDP read, we get jobless claims, we get CPI in parts of Europe, as well as the European unemployment rate.
And then tomorrow, apart from being Friday and the last call here on ausbiz, we've got private sector credit, some data out of Japan, including industrial production and retail sales, and then Nickel Industries, which has been an interesting one. And we also spoke to the CEO of Nickel Industries, I think either last week or the week before. So that's also very interesting. Of course, their big push into Indonesia.
Why would you go anywhere else when this stuff keeps coming off session after session after session? Okay, so what movie is that from? I won't put you on the spot.
No, I don't know. I didn't really understand what you're saying. What movie is it?
The Castle. Oh. So when they're eating dinner, and why go out when this keeps coming up night after night? I might have
straight to the pool room
moved
that
it.
way.
Yeah. Okay. So moving on, and we've got the S&P ASX 200 down by 0.5%, 7,628, and then you go to US E-minis. You heard Scotty talking about E-minis under pressure at this stage, both the Nasdaq and the S&P 500. So we are, we're on alert. It's not been a great day so far. Week to date, down by 1.25%.
All right. That is it, though, for today. We will be back tomorrow. And, of course, as we mentioned tomorrow, we've also got the last call. So join us, join us live from 9:40 Eastern, but also join us for the last call from 3:30 p.m.
3:30, wine in hand. All right. Have a good night.
See ya.
The COB is brought to you by Pepperstone, trusted by traders in over 160 countries.
Gil,
Oh, hey, Ken.
here we go.
You still trading?
Pepperstone, trusted in over 160 countries. You?
Well, I'm still with...
I don't think anyone trusts them.
No, I'm fine with it. Just like I'm fine with my trusty coach. 1980s John McEnroe.
Pathetic! Horrible! 1980s, huh? So, really temperamental?
Keeps me on my toes.
Awful! It's a bit intense.
Be better.
Still fine with it.
Use your racket.
He's just staring at us.
Yeah, sometimes he yells and then sometimes he just stares.
Is he aiming for your face, Gil?
He's fine with it.
Yeah, he's definitely trying to hit you.
Fine with it.
Don't be fine with it. Switch to Pepperstone, trusted by traders in over 160 countries.
Come on, you cannot be serious.
Don't do that.
Ow.